Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive deep into some more fascinating spiritual wisdom?
Always ready.
Today, we're exploring the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda.
Ah, a truly remarkable spiritual figure.
For our listeners who might be new to his work, Yogananda was a prominent yogi and guru who brought the teachings of Kriya Yoga to the West in the early 20th century.
His Autobiography of a Yogi, is considered a classic spiritual text, and it's actually what initially sparked my own interest in yoga and meditation.
It's an incredible book. So, in this deep dive, we'll be focusing on three key themes. Yogananda's perspective on the teachings of Jesus, his understanding of the eternal soul, and how meditation, as he taught it, can bridge the gap between us and the divine. Sound good?
Sounds fascinating. I'm eager to explore these concepts further.
Me too.
Mm.
All right, let's start with Yogananda's unique perspective on Jesus' teachings. He suggests a really intriguing connection between the essence of yoga and the message of Jesus. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Yogananda believed in the universality of spiritual truths across different traditions. He saw a common thread running through all the great religions, pointing to the same ultimate reality.
So while the outer forms may differ, the inner essence remains consistent.
Exactly. A compelling example of this is Yogananda's encounter with Therese Neumann, a Catholic stigmatist in Germany.
Oh yes, I've read about her. She would experience the wounds of Christ's crucifixion every week, right?
Yes, and during these experiences, something quite extraordinary happened. She would speak ancient Aramaic, Hebrew, and Greek.
Languages she'd never learned.
Exactly. People like Dr. Fritz Gerlich, who was initially very skeptical, observed her and documented this phenomenon.
That's incredible. Speak languages she'd never been exposed to suggests a deeper spiritual connection at play.
Precisely. Yogananda saw this as an example of spiritual realities transcending cultural and religious boundaries. He believed that the essence of Jesus' teachings, with its emphasis on love, forgiveness, and self-discipline, aligns with the core principles of yoga.
That makes a lot of sense. Both paths ultimately point towards self-realization and union with the divine.
Yes, and Yogananda believed that all paths, when sincerely followed, can lead to that same destination.
It's about recognizing the unity beneath the diversity.
Absolutely.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and delve into Yogananda's concept of the eternal soul. He speaks of three bodies: physical, astral, and causal. Can you unpack that for us?
Sure. Yogananda taught that we are not merely physical beings. We are, in fact, multidimensional beings with three distinct bodies.
That's a really intriguing concept.
The physical body is what we're most familiar with. It's the vehicle we use to interact with the material world.
Right, the one we can see and touch.
Then there's the astral body, which is composed of finer than atomic forces. This body encompasses our thoughts, emotions, and memories.
So it's like an energetic blueprint that influences our experiences in the physical world.
Exactly. And then we have the causal body, which resides on an even subtler plane of existence. It holds the seeds of our karma, the imprints of our past actions, and the potential for future growth.
It sounds like each body is progressively more refined, moving from the tangible to the intangible.
You could say that, yes.
So how does all of this relate to our journey as souls?
Well, Yogananda described the soul's journey back to God as involution, a process of moving from the complex to the simple, from the outer world to our inner core.
Involution? Why not evolution?
Because in this context, evolution refers to moving away from God toward greater material complexity. Involution represents the opposite, a return to the source.
Ah, I see. It's like moving from the outer ripples of a pond back to the stillness at its center.
A perfect analogy. As we move through these different bodies, shedding layers of identification with the material world, we draw closer to our true nature.
This idea of involution certainly invites a shift in perspective. It suggests that true progress isn't about accumulating more, but about simplifying, refining, and moving inward.
Yes, and Yogananda believed that through focused attention and meditation, we can accelerate this journey of involution, ultimately returning to our divine essence.
Which brings us to our next point.
Yeah.
Meditation. How did Yogananda view this practice?
Meditation, as Yogananda taught it, goes beyond mere relaxation. It's a powerful tool for withdrawing our energy and consciousness from the senses and turning our attention inward.
A way of shifting our focus from the external world to the inner landscape.
Yes. He brought the technique of Kriya Yoga to the West, a practice designed to help us achieve this inward focus and accelerate our spiritual growth.
I've heard of Kriya Yoga, but could you elaborate a bit on what it entails?
It involves specific breathing techniques, postures, and mental focus to awaken and direct our life force, facilitating a deeper connection with the divine.
Sounds intense.
It can be quite profound. In his autobiography, Yogananda shared an experience where his guru, Sri Yukteswar, gave him a taste of cosmic consciousness simply through a touch. He described it as if his consciousness expanded beyond the limitations of his body and merged with the infinite.
Wow, that's a powerful image. To experience such a state of expanded awareness just through a touch.
It speaks to the transformative potential that lies dormant within us. And Yogananda believed that even just 20 minutes of dedicated daily practice could profoundly refine our minds and bring us closer to experiencing that state of unity.
So it's about consistency and dedicated effort.
Absolutely. It's like any skill. The more we practice, the more proficient we become. And with meditation, the rewards are immeasurable.
That's for sure. Well, we've covered a lot of ground already, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface of Yogananda's teachings.
There's so much more to explore.
We'll be back in the next part to delve deeper into some of his fascinating stories and insights. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda.
Glad to be back.
Last time, we talked about Yogananda's perspective on the universality of spiritual truths and his concept of the three bodies: physical, astral, and causal.
Right, and how the soul's journey back to God is a process of involution, moving from complexity to simplicity.
Exactly. Yogananda's life was full of fascinating stories and experiences that illustrate these principles in action. One that always stands out to me is his encounter with Swami Paramahansa, the saint with two bodies.
Oh, yes. A remarkable story.
Paramahansa had this incredible ability to materialize a second physical body at will.
It sounds like something out of a science fiction novel.
I know, right? He even held a job at a railroad office in one location while simultaneously living as a monk hundreds of miles away.
How did he explain this phenomenon?
Well, he attributed it to years of dedicated Kriya Yoga practice under the guidance of his guru, Lahiri Mahasaya.
Lahiri Mahasaya, a pivotal figure in this lineage of Kriya Yoga masters.
Absolutely. He was the guru of Yogananda's guru, Sri Yukteswar.
Yogananda described him as divinity itself in the form of flesh, emphasizing the profound impact he had on his understanding of spirituality.
It seems like these gurus played a really significant role in shaping Yogananda's path. He didn't just stumble upon these truths on his own. He was guided and mentored by realized masters.
And importantly, he didn't just blindly accept their teachings. He questioned, tested, and integrated them through his own experiences. Remember the story about his desire to find God in the Himalayas as a young boy?
Oh, yes. He was convinced that the Himalayas held the key to his spiritual awakening.
And his guru, Sri Yukteswar, wisely challenged that notion. He said something along the lines of, "Wisdom is better sought from a man of realization than from an inert mountain."
It's a reminder that the true journey is inward, not outward.
Exactly.
Although eventually, Yogananda did make that journey to the Himalayas. But it was only after years of training with his guru.
And even then, I believe his experiences there humbled him and deepened his understanding even further.
Right. He faced challenges that tested his assumptions and strengthened his faith.
Do you remember the story about his skeptical brother-in-law, Satish?
The one who challenged Yogananda's beliefs while they were visiting temples in Vrindavan?
That's the one. Satish, being a bit of a doubter, said something like, "If there's really a God, let's see him provide our lunch today."
And then, what happened? A temple priest just appeared out of nowhere and offered them a lavish meal.
Yes, complete with out-of-season mangoes, no less.
It's as if the universe itself responded to the challenge.
Yogananda's life is full of these kinds of synchronicities, events that seem to defy ordinary explanation.
But he didn't see them as supernatural, did he?
No. He saw them as expressions of the underlying laws of the universe, laws that we can learn to understand and work with through spiritual practice.
It's like he was tapping into a deeper level of reality where these kinds of things are possible.
Exactly. He also recounted how Sri Yukteswar helped him pass a difficult college exam, even though he was totally unprepared.
That's quite a testament to the power of a guru's guidance.
It is, isn't it? Sri Yukteswar seemed to have this uncanny ability to know things before they happened. Like the story about the strawberries in Simla.
Oh yeah, refresh my memory.
Yogananda was lamenting about being thin and wanting to gain weight, and Sri Yukteswar just confidently stated, "I see you enjoying many delicious strawberries in Simla one day." And
years later, when Yogananda finally visited Simla, guess what happened?
someone offered him a plate of strawberries.
Exactly. The most delicious strawberries he'd ever tasted, apparently.
Amazing. These anecdotes really make you question our typical understanding of time and the interconnectedness of events. It makes you wonder, what else might be possible?
That's the question Yogananda's teachings encourage us to explore, to go beyond the limitations of our five senses and discover the vastness of our own being.
He didn't shy away from discussing the challenges along the way either. He was very open about his own struggles with doubt, fear, and temptation,
Right, like the time he wanted to run off to the Himalayas seeking enlightenment.
thinking he was ready to go it alone, right? But his guru knew better.
His ego was getting in the way, I think. Sri Yukteswar simply asked, Mukunda, wouldn't you like to stay a while longer with me? Just a gentle reminder that even those on a spiritual path are still susceptible to the ego's allure.
It's a good reminder for all of us, really, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yogananda eventually learned the importance of humility and surrendering to the guidance of a true guru.
Surrender, in this context, isn't about blind obedience, is it?
No, not at all. It's about aligning our will with the divine will, trusting in a wisdom that transcends our limited human perspective.
Which allows us to navigate life's challenges with grace and courage, knowing we're not alone on this journey.
Exactly.
What stands out to you as a key principle in Yogananda's teachings?
That's a good question. The concept of God as ever-new joy is particularly powerful, I think.
Oh, yes, I love that. Tell me more.
Yogananda emphasized that this joy is inexhaustible, constantly revealing itself in new and surprising ways as we deepen our meditation practice.
It suggests an ongoing process of discovery, a reminder to stay open to new experiences and perspectives on the spiritual path.
Right. It keeps the journey exciting and vibrant. And, Yogananda's teachings really highlight the interplay between our material and spiritual lives. He understood the practical demands of the world.
But he also urged us not to lose sight of our spiritual growth.
He did. And that's where his suggestion of a 5-day work week comes in. Remember that. 1 day for rest and amusement, and another dedicated to introspection and spiritual practice.
Oh, yes. Creating a rhythm of life that honors both our worldly responsibilities and our inner needs.
He believed in finding that balance. And, he saw it as a path to greater well-being, even longevity.
He was ahead of his time in a lot of ways. He seemed to understand the negative impact of stress and overwork on our health long before it became common knowledge.
Absolutely. And, he also emphasized the restorative power of nature. He encouraged his students to spend time away from the hustle and bustle of city life.
He believed in the interconnectedness of all things, recognizing that nature has this incredible ability to rejuvenate us and connect us to a greater sense of peace.
And his ability to connect with people from all walks of life was remarkable. He shared his teachings with scholars, scientists, royalty, everyday people.
He really traveled extensively, didn't he? Tailoring his message to resonate with diverse audiences.
Yes, and he wasn't afraid to challenge societal norms, particularly regarding issues of race and equality.
Like the story about his visit to Mysore, India, where he was invited to lecture at the Maharaja's College.
Yes, and he received a standing ovation. His message of universal spirituality clearly resonated with people from all different backgrounds. He didn't present yoga as a religion,
But as a science of the soul.
applicable to anyone.
And he did it all with a wonderful blend of humor and wisdom. Do you remember the story about that skeptical visitor who questioned whether his teachings actually helped people find peace within themselves?
Oh, I love that story.
And Yogananda's response was brilliant. He said, "That's right, but that is not my central teaching. It is best to be at peace with the Creator."
Such a simple yet profound statement.
It really encapsulates his focus on connecting with the divine as the source of true peace and happiness.
A connection that's available to everyone. He often said, "Not one soul that comes to me in sincerity shall go away empty-handed. Those who are in tune with me find him that sent me."
His words really convey a sense of hope and possibility for all who seek. Welcome back to our final part in this deep dive, exploring the profound wisdom of Paramahansa Yogananda.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey so far, hasn't it?
It really has. We've covered a lot of ground. Yogananda's life was so full of incredible stories and teachings.
It really makes you think about what's possible, doesn't it, when we start to tap into that deeper reality he talked about.
Absolutely. And in the last part, we were talking about how Yogananda emphasized the importance of finding balance between our material lives and our spiritual growth.
Right, that 5-day work week he suggested, with a day for rest and another for introspection and spiritual practice. I really like that idea.
Me too. It's so practical.
And way ahead of its time, I think.
Definitely. Yogananda also often used the analogy of the wave and the ocean to illustrate our relationship with the divine.
Oh, yes, that's a powerful one.
Can you remind us of that analogy?
Sure. So imagine a wave on the surface of the ocean. It may appear separate, but it's actually an expression of the ocean itself.
Right, it's made of the same substance.
Exactly. And in the same way, our individual consciousness is like a wave arising from the vast ocean of God's consciousness.
So we're not truly separate from God. We're a part of that infinite source all along.
That's the essence of it, yes. And Yogananda taught that recognizing this connection, really experiencing it for ourselves, is the key to lasting happiness and fulfillment.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If we feel separate and alone, we're always going to be searching for something outside of ourselves to complete us.
But when we realize our inherent connection to the divine, we tap into an inexhaustible source of joy and love.
It's about shifting our identity from the wave to the ocean.
Precisely.
Well, as we wrap up our deep dive into Yogananda's wisdom, what key takeaway would you like to leave our listeners with?
You know, his teachings offer such a timeless roadmap for anyone seeking a more fulfilling, more meaningful life. It's about going beyond the surface of things, exploring the depths of our being, discovering that incredible potential that lies within each of us.
He reminds us that we are not just physical beings, but spiritual beings having a human experience.
An experience that's filled with challenges, of course, but also with so much beauty and wonder.
Yogananda said, "Ever new joy is God. He is inexhaustible." And so is our capacity to experience that joy, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And that's really the heart of his message, isn't it?
It really is. So for our listeners, if, as Yogananda suggests, we're all children of God, sparks of the divine, how might that change the way we approach our daily lives and interactions?
That's the question, right? How would we treat each other? How would we approach challenges? How would we see the world around us?
If we could truly see that divine spark within every being we encounter,
It would transform everything, wouldn't it?
I think it would. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the profound teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda.
It's been a real pleasure.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep diving deep.